everyone, welcome to episode 2 of Talking Cars, and today we're in my quite rattly 2005 Dodge Neon SXT, which this car doesn't really fit in my collection of delectable junkmobiles for not the reason you would think. I mean, it is a Dodge, I own a lot of Chryslers, but yeah, let's get into it. Okay, so the intro is a working progress process. So I'm working on that. It will change probably a lot until I get some kind of intro that I'm happy with, but that's the intro for today. So let's talk about this for a second. Why do we love the cars that we love? Why do we, crave the vehicles that we want to own? For me, personally, I'm going to slouch a little bit so you guys don't have to see so much of this and more of that. For me personally, I think cars have a certain vibe that comes with them. And I know vibe's kind of like the new hot word right now, but it does perfectly describe what I'm on about. And that's that when I'm looking for a car, or I'm interested in a car, I'm not really interested in like how rare it is or how fast it is or any of the stats on the spec sheet, or even like price. I'm interested in what can that car do for me? What kind of emotions will that car feed to me? And more importantly, what kind of adventures can I have in that car? And what are the vibes of those adventures? If I want to cruise up the beach, I want to be in something that doesn't have a top, right? You want to be in a Wrangler, you want to be in a Miata. Hell, I'll even take a Chrysler Sebring if I have to. But I don't want, like, let's say if I'm cruising up the beach, I don't want a 2005 Dodge Neon. It's just not the right car for the job, right? So all of my cars have a certain vibe. I wonder what this guy's vibe is. Look at this thing. Teal, best factory color for the Ram in my opinion, because I'm a sucker for teal. 2500, very nice. But anyway, so the vibes of all my cars, they all have a purpose, right? They have a feeling that gets ignited in me when I'm driving them or around them or just even think about owning them. And when I'm contemplating buying something new for my fleet, that's one of those things I have to incorporate is, how does this car make me feel? Why am I interested in owning it? What about this thing is calling to me? And I think that's why cars like Green Bean were so important. Green Bean was a 95 Corolla that had nothing going for it, but it had the vibe. It made me feel the right emotions, and that's why I loved it. Which brings us back to the Neon. The Neon is the only car that I own, as far as I can tell, that does not have a vibe associated to it, right? I bought this car to help teach my wife how to drive stick, and it's been serving that purpose. And so it has no emotion to me in this car. Now, this car is very cool, and when it comes to beaters, this thing is hero level of beater machine. Put it in perspective, okay? This morning, I rolled the dice of destiny, okay, to try to figure out what car I was gonna film with today. This car came up. This car's been sitting under a tree for 3 months, and I went out there, I put the key in, it started right up, I cleaned the windows, and it's ready to go. It has the coldest AC of any car we own, and it doesn't complain. No check engine lights, has 190,000 miles on it. It's a little rough around the edges, like there's some broken stuff in the dashboard. It's very rattly and always has been, like the whole car. And for a 20-year-old Dodge economy car, it's been awesome. And I think maybe the Neon is slept on a little bit because of that. Like, it's not a Honda, it's not a Toyota, so it's not as reliable, it's not as well built. But ultimately, like, it's a pretty good car. I haven't had any issues with ours. This is the first one we've ever owned, but if this is any example, it could be survivor bias, but this is a good car. We call this car the Tasty Skittle because it is a tasty Skittle. And as far as beater machines go, it's pretty high up there in the list of beaters I've had in terms of just, it's always perfect. It always works and never complains about anything. So I think that's kind of the story on the Dodge for right now, is that it doesn't really fit into my collection. I can't really sell it because I can't find anybody that's wants to give me like a couple of grand for it, basically, because like I'm not gonna like totally just give it away because it is a good car, but nobody's in the market for a 20-year-old Dodge with 200K, so it's fine. We're just gonna hold on to it and just keep on using it for stuff like this video and like our little commute to work here. This guy in the Dodge is going pretty slow. I'm usually whipping through. This is kind of my test track. When I make changes to cars, this is the area where I test it out at, because it's got a lot of good twisties, it's got a lot of good straightaways. It's just a good area to test things out. And so I'm used to kind of whipping through here. Matter of fact, yesterday I came through here and I was following a guy on a Vespa 300 that was just getting after it. I was in the Miata, so we were just having ourselves a ball, kind of playing a little cat and mouse with each other. It was pretty good fun. I got in front of him and then he started to chase me down. It was good. We had a little talk after the fact. It was good times. Let's put a pass on this guy. So interesting thing about the Dodge Neon family is this is a second gen Neon, and I guess the single cams in the second gen Neons were faster than the more sought after twin cams of the first generation. I don't know. I mean, does it matter? It's a Dodge Neon. I don't know. You know, there's a lot of weird junky cars I love to wax poetic about, but I just have nothing to say about the Dodge other than it's a pretty good little car. But other than that, it doesn't have any attributes worth mentioning. It's got some quirkiness to it, I guess. Like, it has power windows in the front, but rollies in the back. I don't know why it does. So I don't know. Dodge doing Dodge things. But yeah, I think it's pretty loud. Yeah, it's a pretty loud little car. So anyway, let's talk about the vibes that some of my other cars give me. So my Jeeps, right? I was born in the 90s. That technically makes me a 90s kid, 90s baby, you could say. But the thing is my memory of the 90s is pretty small because, you know, I was born in 93, and by the time I was old enough to like have any real tangible memories, it's like late 90s. So I have very few memories of the 90s, mostly of the early 2000s. But my Jeeps, both of them, my Comanche and my Cherokee, both transport me to that time frame, the late 90s and early 2000s, when that's when like the cars that were on the road were those types of Jeeps and stuff. And they fill me with nostalgia for that time frame, even though I didn't really experience the 90s or the late 80s. But they fill me with like the sense of the idealized late 80s and early 90s, like what people see in movies, right? It's obviously not what it really was, but that's okay. That's not really the point when you're talking about the vibe of a car. That's what those things give me. When I drive my Cherokees, I want to listen to Wham and Flock of Seagulls, and I want to cruise these roads and just have a great time. And that's exactly what my Jeeps give me. And that is what I look for when I look for 90s Jeeps, is that vibe. I want it to make me feel that way. So certain things can detract from a vibe, right? So you could have like, say, a 90s YJ that would be perfect for that vibe for me, but that's lifted on mud swampers and has a bunch of LED light bars and stuff on it. It's like it's developing a different kind of vibe that's not the same one. So now it's like not as interesting to me because that's not what I want for a YJ, but other people will find it interesting in their own vibe, in their own way. And I think cars as a whole, as a culture, have that kind of dynamic range. You're able to experience cars in so many different ways, and the saddest thing about it is I think most people experience cars in the one dimension of like its transportation. And that's kind of a shame in a lot of ways, because I think if more people just owned an exciting car for some amount of time, they would at least get it. You know, like, I get why this car is fun, it's interesting, it's quirky, it's this or it's that, whatever the thing is for the particular car in question. Almost all cars have something about them that is different, that is unique, that is its own jam, right? I mean, some of them are probably harder to find than others. Like, it's a Hyundai, what's it, an Elantra hatch? I don't know what's interesting about those, and I'm sure there's something. There's got to be, right? I know the early Hyundais, the Hyundai Accent, Somebody had one of those when I was in high school, and I remember we drove it, and the redeeming quality I seem to remember that it had is it was pretty peppy for what it was, and it had a very interesting door chime. It kind of sounded like an 80s A86 like speed chime, which I wouldn't have made that connection at that time in my life, but that's what it sounds like, that ding 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 ding, which to me is interesting. I like it more than the, you know, average speaker bong, but most people hate it, so it wasn't a thing that stayed around very long. So every car has an interesting thing. It's like what Doug DeMuro always says, right? It's quirks and features, he says. Yeah, cars do have quirks and presumably features. But as you go through driving more and more cars, like I try to drive basically as many as I can, try a little bit of everything. You find that like there's a lot of stuff that's just kind of par for the course for certain types of cars, and then there's things that make them stand out. But every car has a vibe that is its own and unique, and you'll find that you could drive two cars from the same like make and model, and sometimes the vibe is a little different, sometimes it's not. But the interesting thing about the vibe for me is when I'm driving a car that's kind of dull and doesn't really have a lot of spirit about it, it's still like, that's a vibe. That's the comfort vibe. That's like what you're going for here. The comfort vibe, right? So my Mazda CX-50, which is the car we drove in the last episode, that car's vibe is just comfort. Like, it's an automatic, it's very, you know, pretty quiet, it's pretty inexpensive, it's reliable. Its vibe is just get me to point A to point B reliably, which I think is the vibe most people want out of their cars. They just want a car. It's a utilitarian thing. It's a tool, if you will. It's not supposed to have all these emotions and get all weird about it. So, okay, fair enough. That's what most people are looking for, and I suppose that's okay. It doesn't have to be this thing that I think it should be, where every car has this type of feeling about it. Okay, that's fair. But the cars that I own, with the exception of the Mazda, which I purposefully bought for the point of it being boring, they all have a vibe, except for this one as well, I guess. This one does have a vibe. It's just not a vibe that I wanted or looked for. It's kind of got this like tired vibe about it. I don't know. It's kind of spunky still. Like it reminds me of a good old dog. That's what it reminds me of. It's super like reliable for you. It will always do what you want it to do, but it's much happier kind of just lounging around and being lazy about it. But if you need like a little spurt of power, it'll deliver in a very old dog kind of way. Like, it'll be short and it'll be sweet, but it'll do it. And I think that's what this car reminds me of. It's like an old dog that's not my dog. It's like somebody else's old dog. It's like super lovable, but ultimately does nothing for me. It's not my dog, it's somebody else's old dog. Because somebody else put 190K on it, that wasn't me. I bought it like this, and I just bought it because it was a good car to teach my wife how to drive a stick in. And now we're kind of stuck with it because I can't find anybody who wants to buy it. So, what are you gonna do? A little bit of change of conversation. We talk about the vibes, and that kind of leads me to when you're shopping for cars, right? So lately I shop for cars all the time. I think we all do. I think anybody that's into this hobby can't stop. Look at that, first gen Box Ranger, nice. Anybody who's into this hobby can't keep themselves away from the classifieds, whether your particular poison is Craigslist or Marketplace or OfferUp or Bring a Trailer or eBay. Or there's plenty of places to get it. We all have the same disease and just get our drugs differently. So I think what I could do is kind of share in these videos what the next thing that I'm interested in or I'm looking at. And a lot of the times I don't buy what I'm looking at. I don't think everybody buys everything they look at. But I can at least share what's catching my interest right now. So right now on Bring a Trailer, there's a 2000 Isuzu Trooper. Now I'm kind of a sucker for Isuzus because my family had them when I was growing up, and I think that the early 2000s Isuzus have more character in one bolt than most cars have in the entire body. They just have all this character about them. But anyway, neither here nor there. It's a 2000 Isuzu Trooper. It's got the typical Trooper 3.5 liter engine in it. It's a stick shift, which is a little bit harder to find in the later Troopers than the earlier ones. The earlier ones are almost always stick, but the later ones are not so that way. And the automatic versions of Troopers are terrible. So it's a stick shift 4x4. It's black with brown two-tone, and it's in like North Carolina. And very interesting to me. I like Troopers a lot, and so I was kind of eyeballing that. And then I saw something I could not help but put a bid on. I do not think I will win it. I will know by noon, but I'm probably already losing, so it's probably a moot point. But I saw this 1996 Honda PC800. Now it's a motorcycle, but it's a very interesting motorcycle. If you don't know about the PC800 or the Pacific Coast, it is a motorcycle that's designed to be more like a car than most motorcycles. Its entire body cladding is like plastic and covers all the engines and oily bits, and it has a trunk, like an actual trunk. And then it's the way it handles, and it has self-canceling indicators and all this kind of like little funky stuff. It's very 90s Honda, but in a very weird and motorcycle-y package. I'm very interested in this bike, and I put in a bid for it, and it's kind of a lowball bid, and quite frankly, I'm going to lose it, and that's okay. It's sometimes just the idea that I could maybe win in such a low bid, I think, is what tempts me. So I put in low ball offers. And I also I think in my mind, I'm helping keep the bidding like going, you know, because like a lot of times I'll bring a trailer, which is where this bike is. You see, like, it just stays the same amount for 4 or 5 days to the last like 3 hours, and then all the bidding comes in. And like, I get it, bring a trailer like charges you to bid, and it's like kind of a pain in the butt, and you get your money back if you don't win and all this kind of stuff. So most people are like really waiting to see if it's even worth the time and effort. That's all fine, good and dandy, but I like to put in my bid now. I'll just put in the max I'm willing to pay, and if I get like fall more in love with it later, I could bid more, but that's not what's going to happen with this bike. I put in my max. It's $2,500. It's as much as I'm willing to pay for the vibe of owning a Honda like late 90s Honda Pacific Coast 800, which is like a car but a motorcycle, but it's a car, but it's also a motorcycle. So I think the vibe of it's cool. It's very rad wood. It would fit in at Radwood. It's in great shape, you know. It's just that kind of thing. It's a vibe I want to experience, because I think it's a little bit more acceptable than a Bergman, which is like a super scooter that I'm also interested in owning. But I don't know. I will not win that bike, but I think it's interesting to talk about, and I'll keep you guys updated at different things I see in the marketplace, and I'll try to include the pictures of the stuff I find if I can. Which I guess means I'm gonna start saving these things. I don't ever save them. I just kind of like fleeting glance them. But and then occasionally, like I said, I put in a bid every once in a while if something tickles my fancy, and I think it's always a lowball bid is my thing. I don't, unless I really want something and I'm really hunting for it. Most of the time, I just bid a lowball bid, and I have won some stuff that way. And usually I'm kind of disappointed that I won, but it is what it is, you know. Did you learn your lesson? No, I'm still doing it, so it's fine. You just keep on bidding on stuff you don't necessarily need. All right, let's see if I can put a pass on this guy. So much noise, so little forward movement. I did just put brand new front tires on this little car because, quite frankly, it needed it, but it is what it is. Keep on keeping on. This section up here that we're about to enter, I don't know how many people are watching this that also watched my moto vlogs back when I was doing those. They were on a different channel. But back when I was doing moto vlogs, I used to talk about this little section here. This section is so fun. For being as short as it is, it's like a mini toge, but it's somewhat hard to enjoy during the day because you don't know what kind of cars are going to be there. And you don't know if people are going to be going too slow, which is usually the case, and then people like cut over into your lane and whatever else. So for those reasons, like, it's not very fun to do during the day, but it is interesting. So it kind of starts right here. You have this like downhill, which is kind of fun. And there's like quick little bumps and like elevation change, and then you kind of have this S that follows this creek bed down here. See, like those 18-wheelers and stuff, sometimes they'll be in the middle, so you got to be careful. That's why I don't do this very quickly during the day. At night though, I'll tear it up because there's just not many cars out here. But so you have this little S-curve section through here, and you could get just whipping through here, especially on a bike. You can just tear it up. I mean, this is only going 45 and we are in a Neon, so it feels way faster than it actually is. We're like, whoa, 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 mama, don't be going too fast now. Dodge freaking Neon. So, but anyway, it's a nice little fun section. It's really, really fun on a motorcycle and pretty fun in a car. And when I first moved up here, I was driving my Cherokee every single day and just eating up those little corners in my Cherokee, tow-gang my Cherokee. So, yeah, nice little fun section. We'll get to do that a lot in the videos. I get to do it all the time, so it's a good time. And then the rest of this is just like going through the rest of the road back into civilization, and most of the time people are going slow. Rodeo. So my perspective on driving speeds, right, might be different than everybody else's. I'm sure that it is, because everything else about me is different. Now we're going really fast in my head right now. We're going 68 miles an hour, which to me is too fast because we're speeding, and we are speeding by a fair margin. I think 5 over is like normal, 10 over is acceptable. Anything past that and like you are speeding and probably deserve a ticket. But for me, like 5 over is kind of like my cruising speed, but I want to do that speed all the time, like even through corners. So like that's kind of my thing. It's like I go really fast through corners, and I live out here on the mountains, so I get behind cars all the time. They take off on me on the straights because I'm not willing to go more than 10 over normally, and normally I'm not willing to really even go 5 over. I'm very comfortable at 5 over the limit, and we're just cruising, and they'll take off for me on the straights, and then as soon as we get into the corners, I'll catch them in no time, because I'm keeping, like if the speed limit's 55, which it is here, I'm normally keeping 60. Just 60. I'm going 60. Corners, straights, doesn't matter. I'm going 60. And in a Miata, that's not hard to do. On a bike, that's not hard to do. The Neon, while I'm having a full conversation, is a little different. It's kind of hard for me to keep my speed at the 60 mark right now, mostly because I'm not looking at it. I'm looking at the road. I'm trying to keep the camera from moving too much so you guys don't get any kind of motion sickness, and I'm trying to hold a full-on conversation while planning, you know, what I want to say next and driving the car. So keeping my speed right now is a little bit more difficult than it would otherwise normally be. But like I said, I like to go just 5 over all the time, everywhere. Corners, straights, doesn't matter. And most people drive not like that, and I think that's what gets me frustrated, because most people drive like this. They'll be doing 60, which is great, and then here comes a corner and they'll slow down, come around the corner, and then it's the straightaway, and then they just start accelerating again, and they're accelerating, and now they're full on speeding, and they're just like, okay, well, what is the point of this? I'm way back there, like, okay, now they're gone, and then they'll come to the next corner, start slowing down again, and then start going under the speed limit. Why do people do that? Why do people do that? That's really bizarre to me. They can't all be filming, right? They can't all be doing what I just did. That's impossible. I don't know. People do weird stuff. I know one of my future videos will be Confessions of a Left Lane Camper, because I am a left lane camper, and I have a lot to say about that. But you could get mad at me all you want. I have my reasons. At least save me the anger until I do the video, and you at least hear my reasoning. And then if you still hate me, then so be it. I deserve it, I guess. But I have been getting better about it. But I mean, honestly, that's gonna be a fun one. I can't wait. Oh man. This car is so interesting. throttle it pretty much all the time and not really be speeding. Not speeding by much anyway. We're just doing a nice jaunt now. And I mean, I will say this car gets like 33 miles to the gallon, I think, when I last did the math on it. It's pretty darn good for a car as old as it is, you know? It's a 4-cylinder car, I guess, but for, you know, 33 miles to the gallon, ice cold AC, this car's great. It's a fantastic little car. And if you want a pretty decent little car for like no money, start looking at Neons. You might find a nice clean one. You'll have to listen to buzzes and rattles, I guess, but you know, if you're talking about a car that cheap, who's complaining? I'm certainly not. This little corner can be fun, but the Neon doesn't really do it very good. The Neon's handling characteristic is wonky. That's what I would consider its handling. It's wonky. It's very, like, it's almost direct, but the body is slow to react. It's like the tires are doing exactly what you want them to do, but the body is like half a second behind. It's interesting. It's an interesting car to drive. I do think that all cars have a vibe. The Pontiac vibe is already a vibe. I think that should be said. It's like all that noise. We're just going the speed limit. It's kind of like a Honda in that way, except that the noise is, well, is the noise worse or better than a Honda? Because it's not as loud, it's not as obnoxious, but it isn't good. This is the Demogoni. It's in Hemet, California, and they say, and I'm inclined to believe that it is true, that this is where they filmed the 18-wheeler chase at the end of the first Fast and Furious movie, is on this road that we're about to turn on. And I will say that the water tower that they stashed the Hondas in is off this road, and it is definitely the same water tower. Like, you can look at it in real life and say that that's the same. But yeah, so that's an interesting little piece of automotive history to this little section of road. It used to, when I first moved here, it used to be a pretty straight shot from here, which is all the way in basically the foothills, all the way out to the freeway. But now they've built a ton of houses, so it's still a straight shot, but it's not as fast as it used to be. It used to be like 70 miles an hour all the way there. Now it's 70 miles an hour some of the way there. And then you gotta slow down and go through the neighborhoods and everything like that. This light always takes forever. On a bike, it's bad too, because it doesn't always trigger, and then you might have to do it double. Yes, the Neon is it's a tasty Skittle. It's a strange Skittle, no doubt about it. Apparently it was somewhere around this area where they filmed that chase scene, and I mean, if you look at it, it looks right. You know, you kind of have these hills, it's divided highway, 2 lanes on each side, kind of a dirt berm. All these houses and stuff weren't out there, I guess, in the year 2000, but they kind of swole up this area. It's semi-interesting. This is the area where the water tower is. It's right up there. Yep, that's where they stashed the Civics in the movie. Very interesting, I suppose. thinking to myself here, I was gonna cut all that out because I just wasn't really thinking, I didn't have anything to say. So all I'm thinking in my head is I'm just gonna cut all this out and just do like a quick jump cut. Because I'm kind of like driving, I'm getting a little bit of motivation for this channel through the Daily Rider, which is about motorcycles. And he always keeps talking. If he runs out of things to say, he just jump cuts to the next scene and it keeps going. But I know some people are weird and they like seeing like videos of cars just traveling through places. I guess that's a thing. It's a video category, actually. People just driving through LA or whatever. Now, this is Hemet. No one wants to see Hemet. Okay, I get that. Fair. But I will leave it up to you guys. For the few of you who watch this and will actually comment, put it down there. Let me know if I should just keep cutting out the sections where I'm not talking, like I did in the beginning half of the video, or should I leave in the sections where it's just the car moving through space and time, and keep that section for whatever reasons that people like that stuff. So just let me know either way, and that will be the way we go forward for in future videos. So the beginning half I did, if you notice, there were some cuts and stuff, some stuff where I stopped talking, I cut it out, and that section right there where I just let it be what it was. So let me know which is better, and we'll go from there moving forward. What is this thing this guy's got? Is this a piece of a bridge, or is this a septic tank? What is this? It's got a lot of weird green mossy stuff on it. Pretty gross looking. Don't know what that is. Oh, there's another one. That guy's got one too. What is? Interesting. I wonder if they're like a dock, maybe. Because there's a lake over there behind us. Could be, maybe. I don't know. Interesting. See if we can catch up to it. See if we can get a better look at whatever this thing is. It's got some stuff on the top. I don't know if those are supposed to be. See if we can get closer. If they're like a port or a tie down, or what is that thing? Yeah, it's like a pipe. It's like a pipe thing. I don't know. What a bizarre looking thing. Is it a barge? Is that what that is? Is it a barge? It kind of looks like it could be of that. It could be a barge of some sort. Interesting. And now we're entering the section I was talking about where the Demogoni isn't as fast as it used to be, because from this light forward it's now developing into suburbs like most of Southern California, and therefore it's not as quick as it used to be. Good GR Corolla over there. Those things are getting pretty popular, and I can see why. They're cool cars, and my personal opinion on them, I don't know how I feel about the motor. I don't really like turbochargers is my main problem, and that's my own prejudice against freaking turbochargers. But for those reasons, I'm just not really that interested in the car. Other than that, it's a cool car, but I'm just an NA person. It's just how I prefer it. It's the way it is. Everybody likes the sound of the rattles, right? This car's got rattles to give. You can go all the way to red line, still not even, just barely catch the car in front of you, and just accelerating normally. I'm kind of curious because I was debating whether I wanted to mic up my GoPro or not, because I know this car is loud, and I know the camera probably picks up all of it, and it's probably super annoying. But the thing is, the microphone in GoPro's infinite wisdom, they have the microphone jack through the door for the battery, so you can't have the door to the battery on, which makes the battery loose and it can fall out, and it's happened to me while I was filming before. So it's like, so I'm kind of going with it. Hopefully I'm speaking at an elevated volume, which is hard for me. I'm speaking at an elevated volume to try to speak over the loud rattles of the car, and hoping that you guys can hear me okay-ish. So it's bad enough that when I raise my voice loud, which I have to do for these videos, that I don't like the way my voice sounds. It gets deeper and worse and just horrible, but it is what it is. Enough of me griping. Let's look at some stuff. These are all the new houses coming up in here, and this is going to be a pretty well built up area. This is basically Menifee now, and this is going to be really, really well built up in the next few years because of how many houses they're building in here. And this is going to be crazy for traffic, because there's a lot of houses, and they already have a lot of traffic problems in this area as soon as you get over the loop up here. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they adapt that. This used to be the much faster way to work, but it's changing and it's getting slower and slower, and I don't think it will be the faster way to work for very much longer. Maybe another year or two, but then it will definitely be the slower way to work. It's just part of the times, I suppose. I mean, with the ever growing expansion of the housing industry and development of suburbs, these little areas of, you know, pockets of what used to be rural areas of California are going to be fewer and further between. There's one of those Hyundai Accents we were talking about earlier. That car has the ping 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 door chime, and they're pretty peppy for what they were at the time. That's just an old granny. She's got her dog with her. She's got a little chihuahua in there. Time travel, this vehicle is limited to 87 miles an hour. I guess that guy is a time traveler. Self-proclaimed. At least that's what his bumper sticker says. You want to talk about vibes for a second? Again, to circle back to that, the Prius. The Prius is a prime example of exactly what I'm talking about. The Prius is like the most hated car in car culture. And it's not because of its mechanical abilities as a car. As it's, by definition of what a car does, the Prius is very good at it. It's fuel efficient, it's reliable, it has 4 doors, it's practical, it's safe, it does everything. By the books concerned, it does everything perfect. The Prius is like, can basically do no wrong on paper. But it's the vibe. It's what that car stands for. That car stands for everything that goes against car culture. And I think that's why car people hate it, because it's a car that fights car culture. It's like an infiltrator. It's a traitor. It's a traitor. That's exactly what it is. It's a traitor in car culture because it itself is a car. But it tries to make people believe that this is what cars should be, and that's not what we want cars to be. When I say we, I mean car people. Its vibe is sinister to car people, but its vibe is lovely and fresh and, you know, good for the environment to non-car people. And that's exactly what I mean. It's the same car. It means different things to different people. It's got vibes. Whatever its vibe is to you. Toyota Prius. Terrible. To me, because I'm a car person. And I do not like them. And like I said, they stand for everything wrong with what car culture was becoming in the early 2000s. And because it became really popular, I think it was kind of a catalyst for hybrids and then future EVs and what have you. And I think it was a start. It was a start of something different for car culture that probably would not have taken off without it. I think it was a pivotal moment. And for the record, I'm not against hybrids or EVs. I owned a Chevy Bolt for 2 years, and that's a story that I'm saving. It's in my list of stories that we'll talk about on this channel. One of the things I want to get into is electric cars and my time with the Chevy Bolt that I had for 2 years. We will get into it. But I have nothing against EVs, and I have nothing against hybrids. But I think the Prius in general is just, I hate that car because of what it stands for. It's inherently sinister to me, and not in the cool, like, John Wick kind of way. In the nerdy, this is what the right thing is to do kind of way. And I try to do the right thing all the time anyway. You don't have to force a car on me to change my mind. I do believe in trying to save the environment, but, you know, I like cars. It's kind of a weird place to be. You want to care about the environment, but you care about cars too, so, you know. It is becoming fall. It's almost Halloween here in California, which means we're having weird weather where I need my jacket on this morning, but now I need air conditioning because now it's getting kind of hot. This car does have the coldest AC in the game, at least in my game, in my garage. This thing's AC is ice cold, buckets of ice immediately. But it's also quite loud, and we're filming, so I'm gonna keep it low and keep it on the floorboards. But it does work good. This has got a new Corvette over, well, last generation Corvette. The news on the street is that the new Corvette, what is it, the Z, I can't remember if it's the ZR1 is what they're talking about. I believe so. It's capable of 230 miles an hour. That's insane. If that's true, and that's exactly what the production version will be, because the story that I believe I read, it was a test driver for Chevrolet, a race car driver for Chevrolet, on a German test track, and they got the car. It's either a ZR1 or a Z06. I believe it's a ZR1. I'm floundering on which version of the Corvette it was. Either way, what I was surprised about it is that there is a Corvette that presumably could make it into the production version. Maybe it was the production version. And if it is capable of anything close to 230 miles an hour, that's insane because it's a Corvette. And I mean, I don't know how much a 230 mile an hour Corvette would cost a potential buyer, but it's probably a damn sight cheaper than a Bugatti or any other car that is also capable of over 200 miles an hour. It is a Corvette. So that's interesting. We'll see what that comes. I mean, you can't obviously use that on the street at all, you know? You'll never even get close to that. It's like the same people who buy super fast, well, anything really. On surface streets, you're just never gonna be able to use that. But if you do get a chance to take it to a track and actually hit 200 or 200 plus in it, maybe you could do the Silver State Classic. That's an awesome event. For those who don't know, the Silver State Classic is a race where you get to race a pretty long distance on highways in Nevada. They close off the highways, and the purpose of the event is to keep an average speed over a long distance, and it's a high speed. You know, they have different classes, like 100 mile an hour class, 120 mile an hour class, so on and so forth. I have not done it, so I'm not going to try to dive into the specifics too much, but I would love to. I just have yet to get down there and do it. So, interesting thing to look into, Silver State Classic. All right, let's merge onto the highway. The 215. Go, little Dodge. I don't want to just show my true negative feelings towards everything. I'm quite a cynic, as it turns out. I'm starting to notice that about myself, as I take a kind of a cynical approach towards things a lot of the time. And I'm trying to kind of fight that by trying to do things, think about things in a different light. Just try to be more sunshine and rainbows, as it were. But I think it's easy to get sensationalized on cynical ideas. It's easy to hook into that. That's why the news is always sad. It's always this bad thing happened, because it's easy to hook people like that. Stories about conflict get more viewers than stories of triumph, basically. And I think that has affected me in a negative light over the years of just being alive and living in America. And just the negativity can sink into you. It can really grip you. It can grip you good. And so I think it's important for everyone to find the thing. If you do meditation, then okay, that's the thing. But when I say meditation, I mean the thing that allows you to let your mind be free and unchained. That's what I mean by meditation. Most people do like actual, I say most people, but some people do actual meditation, like actual, you know, home meditation in the traditional sense. For me, meditation comes in a few forms, but one of them is riding my motorcycle. Because the only thing you can think about is being on the bike and paying attention to every little tiny thing that's happening around you, you have to be so focused you can't really think about the negativities of things. And it's kind of a meditation in that way. Your mind is unchained to advance in its own way. It's thinking about what's happening in the moment and not about big ideas or big things that may be happening in our world or in my life or whatever. It's freeing in that way. So I implore everyone to find that thing that allows them to keep their mind unchained and allows it to kind of explore. As a matter of fact, the reason why it's not just motorcycles, it's cars as well, I suppose, because one of the reasons I came up with the idea to do this kind of filming thing is I know that I have the tendency to ramble and that my mind is constantly going. My drive home more so than my drive to work, but filming at night is difficult. But my mind is free to just explore and see how I feel about things while I'm driving. My mind is just completely unlocked to do whatever it wants to do while I'm driving. I'm thinking about a little bit of everything, whatever my mind wants to think about. And because I'm a car person, I like cars, I'm constantly spotting them. And it seems like so far, this is my second time filming and trying to like make something of this. I've been skunked twice now. I've not seen any cool cars, and then like as soon as the camera's off, like the next time I get in the car, I see a bunch of cool stuff on the road. I'm like, dude, really? Like we saw that guy in the Vespa 300 just getting after it yesterday in the twisties, and then the first time I filmed, as soon as I put the camera away, I came across a cool Jeep Gladiator and some other cool stuff. It's like, I'm just getting skunked. But anyway, neither here nor there. The idea was to talk about cars mostly, but also just talk about whatever my mind is doing. You know, just let my mind kind of free flow and record it and put it on the internet for people to ridicule me or whatever. Because that's what people do on the internet. It's fine, no big deal. See, there's my cynical. You see it? It was right there. I couldn't help it. My cynical just came out, right? My cynical point of view was to think that most people on the internet who see my videos ridicule me, which is not true. If you look at, with the Chevy Bolt video and the Plymouth Duster video aside, you can't count those in this, because if you do, then I'm wrong. But if I'm selecting my bias here, if you look at my comments for most of my regular videos, most people are just commenting about the trucks or whatever, and it's very few negative comments. But you do have some people who say negative comments to me. I think it's unintentional. At least that's what I want to believe. Because some people will comment things not knowing that I'm transgender, and I think it's because my voice is kind of deep still, and that it's no changing that. But my voice is kind of deep, and so like most people who don't know the channel just assume that I'm male, and then something weird will happen with like either my nails or what I'm wearing or something, then people will say some weird little comment or whatever and not really understand. That's okay. I'm not mad. It's fine. It's not a big deal. But that's where I've seen those comments, and so my immediate reaction was to be cynical, like, oh, people will ridicule you for what you say on your little camera while you drive, which is probably not true. It'll probably have basically no comments, and the few comments that are there will be mostly positive, so it's fine. You don't have to be such a hater, alligator, all the time. And I'm talking to myself on that one. But I'm a lurker by nature when it comes to the internet. I don't comment hardly ever on anything. And I kind of feel bad because sometimes I leave my friends high and dry on that stuff, but I try not to. It's just that that's just my personality. I'm not a very commenty kind of person when it comes to the internet. I'm just a lurker. I like to see stuff just make my own opinions about it. Occasionally I'll browse comments on other people's videos just to see if I have a weird emotion or a weird thought about it. I want to see if other people are also feel that way. But, you know. The road's quite dirty today, I'm noticing. There's a lot of debris on the road, and I don't really know why. It's usually not this bad, but there's a lot of cardboard boxes and things just flying through the air today. Although, so I'm filming on a Friday. Now, I have noticed Fridays, weird stuff happens to me almost every Friday when I'm driving. Something strange will happen almost all the time. And I almost get into car crashes all the time on Fridays by people pulling out in front of you, cutting you off, whatever. There's something about Friday in general that people are crazy on the roads on my commute. And I don't know why that is. I can make many assumptions, but there's, for some reason, it just kind of seems to be Fridays are crazy. And I didn't really want to film on Fridays for that reason. It's like, I don't really know what to expect. And the other part of me basically thought, well, you should capture that weird stuff on camera. At least you'll have some proof of what you're talking about. And ultimately, it boils down to that's the only day I have available to film and edit based on the other stuff going on in my life. It's basically Fridays until the new year, in which case I will probably switch to Wednesdays. But for now, it's going to be Fridays, and we will probably catch some weird stuff by happenstance, because weird stuff seems to always happen to me on Friday. Admittedly, more of it happens on my way home than my way to work, but weird stuff does happen on my way to work as well. So those of you who don't live in California might be interested to see in the license plate. He's already getting away from us. I know this camera's not very good. I would love to have a new one. Can't afford it right now. The license plate on this Bronco Raptor right here is one of the California electronic license plates. It's literally electronic. It's a screen from what I gather. And I don't get the point of it, to be honest. And it's not that it's not cool, because it's totally cool. But maybe someone else can explain it to me. What is it about the plate that makes you want it? Is it that it's electric and it's cool and it's different? Or is it like, maybe it's part of the vibe? I don't really know. I would love somebody to chime in. I've just never met somebody who had one and was able to like sit down and like talk with them and be like, why do you have it though? Just out of curiosity, I just want to know. This person wasn't paying attention, shame on you. I just want to know like why you have it. And it's not negative, I just am curious what the allure of it is, the electronic plate versus a metal plate. So the thing about California is our cars keep the plates throughout their life, unless, you know, there's some unforeseen circumstances. But when a car gets its first set of plates, if it stays within the state of California, most of the time that car will keep its plates its whole life. So I don't get the point of the electronic plate for that reason. Like the cars just have plates. That's their identity, basically. But lately, they've been doing some highway cleaning up here, and it's caused some congestion in this area the last few days. And I saw somebody just take their lives into their own hands yesterday and play chicken with the cleaning crew. It was kind of wild. Hopefully, I'm not really wanting to see anything like that today. Looks like the 215 is pretty decent as far as traffic goes most of the time, but this little area right here can get a little backed up if there's even the slightest inconvenience. Too many trucks merging on the highway, it gets backed up. Highway cleaning crew gets backed up. Basically anything will make this area back up. But I suppose you could say that about any highway. I'm hoping we catch up to it. I can see it. I don't know if the camera can. There's a first generation Mazda B series up here, and I'm hoping we can catch up to it. Oh, we can. There it is. Haha. Now, is it the 2300 or it's a 2000? So it's the little motor. It's the 2-liter. It's not the 4x4, but I do like those. I like them a lot. I think they're really neat. Mazda B series pickup. Okay, so we should be recording again. My camera died, or my battery died, which I saw coming because I've already done this trip with motovlogs, and I know that the batteries, the factory GoPro ones, cannot last 1 hour of sustained filming for some reason, you know. They can go like just over an hour basically most of the time, and then they kind of die out. So I'm assuming we've been filming for right around an hour. It'll probably be different on timestamps because of the jump cuts or whatever else, but yeah, the cameras don't really last that long. So, but anyway, we're pretty much almost there, so we're gonna start pretty much wrapping this thing up anyway. We'll see a few more interesting cars in traffic, hopefully. We got a little EK Civic here, 2-door. This interesting Mercedes wagon. This is the E-Series wagon, which I think is pretty neat and very interesting. I'd like to test drive one just to see what that life is like. The Mercedes, the modern, excuse me, fix my camera, modern Mercedes wagon life. And we're just gonna be in bumper to bumper traffic here, just trying to get finished in the last, it's always the last few miles, isn't it, in life? It's always the last few bits of the distance that are the hardest. And it's no different on my commute to work. Traffic always gets, if it's gonna be terrible, it's terrible here in the very beginning. Although I have found really innovative ways to avoid all the traffic that could potentially happen further back on my commute, and that's basically why it doesn't happen to me that much, is because I've developed a route to kind of dodge most of it. And maybe that's, I've done this to myself. There is no way to bypass this section of the traffic, basically, because you could get off on these exits and go through the warehouses, and I've tried that. It doesn't save you any time. It doesn't even save you any stress, so it's pointless. You might as well just stay in the traffic, because you are traffic. You're not in traffic, you are traffic. So here we go, just staying in traffic. So a lot of people don't like stick shift because of traffic. I don't know, it's just second nature to me. It doesn't even, I don't even really think about it that much, because I don't know, I've been driving a stick shift for so long. It just everything happens, everything clicks into motion without me thinking about it. Normally I'm listening to music and I'm looking at cars and letting my mind ramble. I'm not thinking about like what gear I need to be in. That stuff's just happening. I'm just driving the car. And so I think people who complain about driving stick in traffic are out of practice stick shift drivers, and that's my hot take. Is because you could say it's because you have a stiff clutch. I've had cars with wicked stiff clutches. I've had like race clutch cars, and I will admit it's not comfortable to drive in traffic. It's not. But that has nothing to do with the fact that it is a stick shift. It has the fact that it has to do with the type of clutch your car has. And like the Mustangs, like the T5 Mustangs, they don't have a hydraulic assisted clutch. It's just a spring, so like it's a stiff clutch even with a basic clutch. I get all that. But again, I think you're just kind of wimping out a little. You're wimping out, because the joys of a stick shift way outweigh the cons of sometimes being in traffic with it, in my opinion. That's just like my opinion, man. It's fine. Automatics are easier, I get that. I mean, my daily driver, my Mazda, is an automatic, but I bought that car and I wanted it to be an automatic because I wanted the automatic cruise control with stop and go feature, because I was being lazy, basically. I was being lazy, and I chose a car to be lazy, and I bought that car to be lazy. But I don't complain when I drive my Miata, or if I'm in this little bucket, or one of my Jeeps, and I'm stuck in the bumper-to-bumper traffic. The only time that I get stuck in the bumper-to-bumper traffic that I do get a little perturbed is my poor Jeeps are old, and they tend to get a little hot during the summer when we're in bumper-to-bumper traffic. So I have to keep an eye on the engine temps on those guys, and I get a little worked up. But other than that, like, it doesn't really bother me. This little car is just a commuter, man. It's a road warrior in that sense. It can just deal with whatever. It just doesn't complain about anything. But yeah, just driving a stick of traffic is not that big of a deal to me. I think you really, from my experience, you want to kind of stay behind an 18-wheeler if you can, because a lot of the 18-wheeler trucks are stick. Now, there's more automatics now than there have ever been. But when I was learning to drive stick, dealing with traffic, that was like my go-to, because back then, basically all 18-wheelers were stick. if you get behind an 18-wheeler, most of them are stick, so they kind of try to keep like an even speed as best they can because they're dealing with the same thing you are. So if you can get behind one of those, and as long as they have a somewhat open road ahead of them, they'll try to maintain a speed as best they can, which makes it easy for you. You don't have to run the clutch as much. You can just put it in a gear and just keep on keeping on. Yeah, I think if being in bumper-to-bumper traffic is like the killer of the stick shift as far as what potential buyers are willing to deal with, there's probably ways to deal with that in terms of verging technology. You know, if you have stop and go radar cruise control for an automatic, and they have it to where it'll stop but won't go on the stick shift models, if you could just come up with some kind of power assisted clutch, basically a way that the computer could use the clutch, you could come up with some kind of radar guided cruise control that could deal with traffic stop and go with a stick shift car. I don't know if there's enough customer demand because there's like 1% of car buyers or buy a stick shift, but you could develop that technology for Europe, I suppose, and then bring it over here because most cars in Europe are still stick. So this is the under construction currently March Air March Air Reserve Airfield Museum display airplanes. That's gonna be my kind of mark to start throwing together a good buy here. So thanks for watching. I hope the audio was good. I know this car's super buzzy. There goes our friend in the Mazda again. I know this car is super buzzy, and so the audio may not be as high quality as I would like it to be, but if it's really, really bad, I will probably do microphones when we use this and other loud machines. But other than that, thank you for watching. I appreciate your time, and that's pretty much it. That's it. Thank you very much. Please keep watching. I'm trying to really just do something cool with this, and that's all I want to do. And with that, I am